Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Monday livecast. We have a pretty awesome guest with us today. He's well known in the MMORPG community. The Lazy Peon is joining us for an awesome Q&A session. How's it going, Lazy Peon?
Hello, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're fans of your channel. I think you do some pretty amazing content. It's well done. It looks great. And you give some pretty good input to the MMORPG genre. I can tell through your videos that you're very passionate, and I think passion is something we share.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we can all agree that we've all been waiting for that next big MMO, and I'm sure I'm not alone in hoping that Ashes of Creation can be that game.
Hear, hear.
We're hoping too.
Cheers to that.
Let's do it.
Oh, we got the Bacon the Barbarian. And we have, joining with us today, I have Jeffrey Bard, lead game designer.
Hi, everybody.
We have Peter Pallone, a game designer here.
How's it going, everybody?
And we have the Baconator behind the curtain. And it is Baconator's birthday today, actually. So happy birthday, Michael Bacon.
Happy birthday, Bacon! Oh, man.
Tell us a little bit about your channel and what makes you love the MMORPG genre, Lazy Peon?
Cool, so I'm the Lazy Peon. I'm mostly known for my YouTube videos in which I do first impressions things of various different MMOs. I've also started live streaming different MMOs on Twitch a lot more recently. And I really love MMOs for the whole multiplayer aspect. The feeling of being in big epic battles is something that you can't really recreate in any other genre, hence why I'm really into MMOs. I'm a bit of a PvP fan, personally.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we share that too. I love to pitch huge battles. I mean, I remember, in every MMO I've ever played, there was always a reoccurring theme of where there are these large battles that can be had. And, I think they create some of the most enticing stories.
And just that persistence, too, where it's like, the server doesn't go down.
Yeah.
It's the same story the next day.
Yes.
You get a history that you don't get from other session-based games.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. So why don't you start shooting us with questions?
Okay, so
Don't shoot us, please.
so the first question is, Ashes of Creation is currently receiving a huge amount of hype for an MMORPG. There's a lot of features you're promising, and a lot of people are skeptical when it comes to the scope of the game because it's so huge. It seems like you want to include kind of a bit of everything, really. Are you worried that you're promising too much and won't be able to live up to people's expectations, kind of like No Man's Sky, for example?
Oh my goodness. You did not just bring up that title on the stream. No, so I mean, obviously, going into the Kickstarter, we've spent the past 15 months here with a pretty experienced team of MMORPG veterans, and we've calculated down to our T's and I's on what exactly we can accomplish in scope, the systems that we have drawn out, and whether or not those systems are, requiring of new technology or they can be done, but just in a different way.
Right.
And I think that we are presenting the game in a way that's generating hype because of the ideals we're sticking to in our design philosophy, right? Like meaningful events and consequences, no pay to win, no cash grab, dictating the narrative on the server. Those things aren't huge scope, but they're very appealing for players because they haven't been done utilizing the technology that exists today and constructing a game with that at the forefront of our design philosophy.
Yeah.
And also, like, a big part of it is letting drivers drive that letting players drive that content, which is, for us, it takes a lot of the scope off the table, right? When we don't have to prescript all of these different kinds of ways that players have to interact with the world, right? We kind of set things up for everybody and then let them go. And obviously the biggest part of our design is going to be the content part.
Right.
But I mean, we're really capable of doing that.
Oh,
I mean, we've had plenty of scope meetings where I have to argue my position and say, hey, that's probably something we can't do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff we've left on the cutting room floor, and this is what we're sharing with you guys is kind of the stuff that we know we can get done.
Yeah, we kind of, when going into our design discussions here at the studios, me personally, obviously, I dream big.
Right.
And
that's great. We love it.
Yeah, and sometimes, we gotta chop off a few things that maybe are too big or something. So, we've already, as Jeff said, gone to the cutting board and this is what we've presented as scope that we're capable of achieving within the timeline that we've presented.
Okay, so that's good to hear. So you definitely have enough people, enough staff to kind of fulfill this massive MMO that you're planning.
Right. I mean, right now we have 14 or 16. 14 or 16? 14? 14 that are here in the studios, full-time developers, and we actually just launched our another hiring spree where we put up our ads for new positions. I think we're bringing on 8 additional this month.
Okay.
Probably by June.
Yeah, probably by the middle of June, I would say. And then we have plans to grow the studios in the next coming quarter. That's probably going to bring our total team to a size of around 40 before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year,
Okay.
yeah. We'll continue to grow past that too. We have specific milestones in place that we're going to need specific headcounts in order to fulfill. And while we're here right now in pre-alpha, we don't need as many people. Once we start getting big into the content part, and that's when we're going to start needing those extra heads.
Okay, that's really good to hear. So eventually you won't just be a small indie studio, really. It'll kind of have a big enough team for the kind of thing a AAA studio would release eventually.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
cool.
And I mean, if that's what people's worry are as far as scope is, like, we realize that. We can't do what we've sold with 14 people. That's not going to happen.
It's something we've carefully mapped out over time.
Yeah, because with some MMOs, you hear like new Kickstarter MMOs coming out. They're promising the world, and they've only got 3 people working on it. So things like that, it's a little bit hard to believe for people. So I think it's really nice to hear that you're bringing on more people to make the game more of a reality.
Yeah, and that was always, that's always the plan,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it was never the idea, like, as you said, we're going to complete this project with 14 people. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the growth is something that maintains our culture here at the office.
Right.
Keeps the focus on the fact that we are passionate MMORPG gamers, and that we don't grow too quickly that we lose sight of.
Yeah.
Right.
So it needs to be a structured growth, and that's something that we plan for.
Yep.
Okay, I like that answer.
a little dark.
So next question would be, as a new player starting the game, can you give us a rough idea of the things we'll typically be doing for the first 10 to 20 hours of playtime?
Okay, so it's going to depend on what kind of player you are. We're going to have starting zones for every race, and that'll sort of get your feet wet in all of our systems, right? So you'll be doing a little bit of crafting, a little bit of combat, a little bit of dungeon delving, a little bit of everything, just so you can kind of see how the systems work and get a feel for what you want to do in the game. But that's not required, right?
Yeah.
If you want to go and run out into the wilderness and start working on a node, that's totally something that you can do. A first level player could conceivably explore the entire world. They would have to be very careful and do it very slowly and take a lot of risk, but that's something that they can do.
Okay, interesting. Will Ashes of Creation have player-to-player trading? Will there be anything stopping me from gifting a friend that's fresh to the game a bunch of in-game money to help them get on their feet quickly?
There won't
No, there wouldn't be anything that would stop you from doing that. However, we are cognizant of the fact that there's a potential for that to be abused.
Yeah.
Gold sellers to trade items, or people to purchase with real life money things, and we have taken security as a very important aspect of the game that we've begun production with. It's not something we're applying afterwards.
Right.
We're constructing the game
Right.
with those metrics available so that we can quickly ascertain whether or not an account is doing something wrong, or if they're constantly trading out money and they just have so many friends out there that they've never interacted with before, but until they give them this money. So we're cognizant of that fact, but we also want to maintain that tradability between friends.
Yeah, trade is going to be really important. So
Yeah, that's basically answered my next question, which was like every MMO's had issues with real world trading. Obviously, with free trade, that would be something you would have to combat. Have you got any anti-botting systems that you plan on introducing to the game?
So we have a really robust security protocols and systems in place. And that's both against those RMT transactions, like you said, and against botting. In addition, being a subscription-based game helps us to make the barrier a little bit higher for people that want to participate in those types of gray market activities. And coupled with the security systems we have in place and are building the game with, I think we're going to be pretty successful in combating that. Obviously, we're not going to be 100% successful because nobody can be.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a really high threshold.
Yeah, I know for me and a couple of other guys in the studio, we come from this MMO background, and we've seen it all. We've seen every bit of it. And the most important part when designing a game like this is to be really proactive about your security, and that's on all levels. So from day one, basically, that's something that we've been looking at and been working on in engineering. So. It's not something that we're going to, get to launch and be like, oh my God, look at all these gold farms.
Yeah.
We are ready for that right now.
Absolutely.
So that's something that's been really important to me, and then to a bunch of the other
And we
guys.
have some pretty good partners even outside the studios who are helping in that regard too. So.
Okay.
People who know what they're doing. So that's cool.
That's good to hear. Will gear in Ashes of Creation be bind on equip? Can you sell gear that you've already worn? Basically.
So we're going to be staying away from a lot of bind on equip items and a lot of bound items. That doesn't facilitate the objectives we have for our economy.
Okay.
We're going to have items that yes, you can equip and then you can sell later. And we think that with our regional economy system that we're developing and how crafting works in the game, that having those items available to continue to trade and exist within the marketplace along with our item sinks that we have helps create that healthy economy.
Right, and it's always cool to be able to say, hey, I just got this new weapon. You want to use my old one? I mean, that really helps kind of like helping other players, your close group of players to kind of maintain relevancy throughout the entire experience.
Yeah.
And then also, there may be some binding, but it would probably be the exception rather than the rule.
Right.
Okay, great. Another gear-related question. Will Ashes have separate gear sets for PvP and PvE?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. It's something that's really, it's always annoying to me when I have to get my second equipment set.
Right.
And it sucks when I have to grind up 2 different sets for myself. And I think I understand the reason for it. There's really good reasons that happens in games. But again, it's one of those things, if you're designing from the beginning with that in mind, you don't necessarily have to resort to that.
Yeah, we want gear to be epic in and of itself, not enclosed into one section of the game's mechanics.
Right.
I mean, the game is designed to flow together, both PvE and PvP.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't translate well if there are 2 separate.
Right. If I'm attacking this mob over here, and then all of a sudden there's a siege over there, and I don't have my PvP gear with me, it just doesn't work very well if we do it that way.
And we think the gear in general, I mean, it makes it more desirable if everyone's using it. It makes the market a little bit better and robust for that. So from the economy perspective, we think it's a good idea as well.
Okay, so I saw on your YouTube channel recently you released a trailer for a new class, and it showed the class was climbing walls and doing some kind of parkour, and I was like really amazed when I saw this. I thought, this game's going to have climbing. Can you go more into the details of the climbing in this game?
Yeah, so I mean, we are going to have aspects of mobility and climbing and different type of traversal utilities, and it really goes towards how we're designing the classes. I mean, we want classes not just to have skills that pertain to combat, but also skills that pertain to actions and events outside of combat, and that could include different traversal hazards. It could include potential hazards when delving and adventuring and exploring out in the world, and those types of actions are going to relate to certain classes' roles. So each class as a class has a role in combat, they will also have a role in utility as well.
Yeah.
So maybe not every class can climb or parkour. That might be something that's inherent to the ranger and the rogue. But we haven't really finalized for sure those specific skills and where they lie.
Yeah, this also comes down to scope, but it's very, very important to us that the world has a life of its own. It is its own character, and that it's not just a background, it's not just a pretty picture, right? Which is what happens in a lot of MMOs, right? Because it's so easy to place mobs, but it isn't necessarily easy to create interesting, places you can go with your character, right?
Dynamics,
and once you suddenly allow hey, I'm the rogue and I can scale up this wall, and there are siege mechanics, and suddenly that rogue has a role in the world that goes beyond just what they can bring to combat. It's what they can do for their side and what they can do in the game, I think.
Right, I agree with that.
Okay, I think if you're going to have rogues that can climb, I think I already know what class I'm going to pick then.
Well, it might not just be rogues. I mean, there might be there's other classes.
Will Ashes of Creation have some kind of guild versus guild war declaration system so you can PvP against other guilds without any penalties?
Yes, there are going to be guild wars involved in the game, and not just your standard run-of-the-mill kind of guild wars. You know, we're thinking about more objective-paced guild wars that could include locations or, you know, specific items that a guild may own as victory conditions and or surrender conditions. Something that kind of takes that approach to this, whatever bone you have to pick with another guild. Well, now there's a new dynamic to that you know has those objectives.
Right. It's always kind of a little bit weird to us when you've got a guild war that just kind of keeps going on forever. Right. There's no end to it. There's nobody who can really claim victory without somebody just saying, "Okay, I'm done with this."
Yeah.
Right. Like it's kind of anticlimactic. There's no real
Objective.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're playing with some ideas there. None of them have been finalized, but if we can make it happen, I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you've already shown us Ashes of Creation will have a lot of choices when it comes to different classes and class combos. I'm personally someone that likes to play multiple classes if given the chance. How alt-friendly will Ashes of Creation be?
Oh, I think we're pretty alt-friendly, right?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any specific barriers to that.
No, I can't think of examples that we would have any not alt-friendly things.
So,
I mean, I'm an altaholic too. Like, if you look at my character lists, I mean, you've got 20 characters that are level 10. And that's just like how I like to play. I like to kind of see how different things work together and kind of play with different builds. So, I mean, it's just from that perspective.
I'm the exact opposite. I only have one character forever.
Yeah, that's not me.
Yeah.
But there's definitely not going to be any barriers to that I can think of.
something I did ask earlier was about the gear not being bind on equip. So, if gear's not bind on equip, could I send one piece of gear from my main character to an alt character, for example? Would there be anything stopping me from doing that?
You could transfer the gear to. Well, I don't think we're going to have item in the mail.
Yeah,
thing, but you could to another character, and then that character could do it to the alt.
Or you could just make the your storage
through the back
like
end.
account based rather than
Yeah.
character based. But I'm not sure about that. That's a little bit. We haven't worked out those details
that more.
yet.
But preliminary answer is, if you had an item set on one character, you could move it to an alt.
Right,
How that
right.
movement would occur, we don't know yet.
Okay.
That's something we're still playing with.
It's not something we want to lock out.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, okay. Will there be a level cap, and if so, what will it be? Also, how long will reaching that level cap take, roughly?
That's a good question, and it's a question we probably don't have a definitive answer for you at this moment.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't even want to speculate.
Okay.
Really.
Yeah, I don't want to get people's imaginations going until we've really nailed it down.
See, we don't pre-screen these questions just so everybody out there knows.
Yeah.
You can just ask whatever you want. Oh my God. Oh, that's a good point. What is in this box right now? Here, do you want some of this? You good?
Sorry.
Are you sure? Oh, you can't have that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ah,
it's a
look
double
at
stuff.
that. Is it double stuff?
It's double stuff.
There you go.
We actually had this conversation
Enjoy.
afterwards. I couldn't tell. I don't know if you want to hear me eating on camera, so I'm going to put this right here.
Well, I'll just swallow it.
Right.
That's okay.
All right. Next question.
While Steven's eating, maybe, Peon.
What can we expect from questing in your game? Will it be your standard kill and collect quests, or will it be more complex quests with multiple different stages for a single quest? Will you be going for quality or quantity when it comes to the questing?
So that is the answer to that is yes. We're breaking things down a little bit, right? I personally, there's this thing that happens in MMOs. It doesn't happen in any other type of game, right? Where I always hear from people, "Hey Jeff, I love your quests, but I never read them." And it makes me sad inside, and I always cry a little bit. But it happens everywhere. And so one of the things is, like, why is that the case? Why do people do that? And a lot of it is just because there's so much filler in MMO quests. There's so many stories that get told that don't have any consequences, that don't mean anything. They're just kind of contextual things that give you a reason for why you're going to go kill those 5 wolves. So I decided to take those out of the equation, right? I'm going to take those out. I'm going to put them into what we call tasks, which are kind of node-based, kind of low narrative things that you're going to do that will help you in your normal day-to-day sessions. The narrative quests, which are going to be where the main story is told, are going to be those big, complex kind of places where you can kind of actually play an interesting game, and rather than just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So I want anything that relates to the main story to be something really interesting to play and read through, and to have as little fluff and just filler as possible.
I think the other reason why traditionally in other MMOs it has been the case where you just kind of skip that stuff is because you really don't see what's being said there manifest in the world around you.
Right.
Whereas our approach to that from a questing standpoint is everything you're doing in the world in some way, shape, or form relates to you and the others around you. So there's a purpose to these events that you're participating in the world. And the more you know about it, the more capable you are to engage with that quest line. And actually have some self-determination when it comes to how your character relates to it and how it affects the world around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
I think that's why we split them into those different buckets with like events, and then like how you mentioned tasks, the long form like epic quests, that everyone loves. Just because some people are all about efficiency with quests. And go right through the literature, so to speak, and just go
ahead and
to
call it
what
efficiency. That's fine.
Right, efficiency.
Doesn't make me feel better.
Do what they do, But we understand, all walks of life for questing. So we're trying to split those out into buckets and make it really engaging for the player.
Right. And really focus on the things that people want to be seeing, right? Like nobody wants to read bucket loads of text that doesn't mean anything, right? So if we're going to give you text, it's going to be something that's important.
Will we be getting multiple choice quests where your decisions influence the outcome? Things like that?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
That's a common thread in our quest lines. I mean, and it just speaks to the whole basis of the game in agency, player agency.
Right.
So we want to allow people to determine their course within a quest and that have different outcomes.
Right. And then what you said about quantity over quality, like that's what gives us that opportunity to do that. Instead of focusing on writing so much text for stuff that doesn't really matter, right? We can focus on giving people lots of options for the stuff that does matter.
Not to say there's not extensive lore and story behind these events.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
No, we're not getting rid of any lore. Like that's not
Absolutely.
going to happen. We're just making the lore more meaningful.
Okay.
And despite us not having revealed a lot of lore, I mean, the reason for that on our end is because the lore is so extensive and deep that we want players to explore and discover that for themselves rather than being told, hey, here's the trailer to the movie and now you know how it ends. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with that being said, we'll probably be leaking some
a
little bit here and there,
foundational lore,
just to give people a sense of like the themes and the kind of exposition that you might expect for something like this.
Nice, looking forward to it. Other than experience, will there be any other benefits to questing? Perhaps certain quests unlocking the ability to equip certain equipment?
Yes.
especially with our goal that we're about to come up upon, that $2 million goal. I think we may hit either tonight or tomorrow. That social organizations will include quest paths that may unlock access to certain things within a thieves guild or within a scholar's academy. And those things are only accessible by people who have progressed within those social organizations to the degree they have.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also, just as far as like finding recipes and just kind of discovering the world, there'll be lots of things that get unlocked as you explore the world, and you explore the world through the narrative, and you explore the world through quests, and so a lot of that stuff will be. There are going to be a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of hidden things that I really hope people don't discover right away. There's some fun stuff we're doing.
Okay, so is the game going to be leveling through quest or through grind?
No grind.
No grind?
Grind sucks. We hate the grind.
Okay.
I mean, what is the grind, right? Like, grinding is doing the same thing over and over and over again to get to an end game that, finally the game starts.
I think we need to disassociate the word grind from time.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of time that can be spent in advancing your character in different progression paths throughout the game, whether it be through the religion, through your adventuring class, through your artisanry, through building up industry and structures. There's a lot of different things that involve a great deal of time.
Right, and then also progress your character.
And that progress your character. However, the word grind refers to repetition and refers to, you know, getting nowhere you know, for a long period of time. We don't want that to ever be the feeling.
Killing the same mob for 16 hours to gain 1/4 of an experience bar.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started.
I think something.
you know, that was like a major MMO that I played for a long time was Lineage 2, and like you would die in that game, you would lose a couple percent, and it would take you literally like 12 hours or 24 hours to get that back of just straight grinding. And I really just wanted to like hit my head against a wall.
Right.
Yeah.
It
wasn't a great experience.
It was not a good experience. There were other portions of the game that I loved, but we don't ever want to have that type of experience where you're grinding. We want you to see the efforts produce fruit while you're working your way and the time you're devoting to that path you're working towards.
And we want enough stuff to do in the game that you're always engaged, right? Where it's not just you go on autopilot, but that there's so many interesting things to do that like you can't do them all, you know, and that's kind of where we want to go.
And that doesn't mean also like in reference to the time it's going to take to level, I think you asked a while ago, it's not going to be something where, hey, I'm in the game and I spent 5 days and I'm max level, yay, you know, that's not going to be the case. There is going to be some time devoted towards progression, specifically in regards to the adventuring class. And that will feel meaningful, I think.
And I think a lot of our focus on a macro level was really just trying to think of player motivations in general and just going, well, we know people are motivated for different reasons and there should be an avenue for them to succeed and enjoy, you know, the whole game, right?
Yeah.
So there should be ways for them to advance.
And to have all those moments be fun, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We want it to be fun. We don't want it to be work.
Or cumbersome. Yeah, exactly. We don't want you to come home from your job just to start another one.
Yeah, I think something a lot of modern MMOs kind of give me the feeling of, it's like you just kind of go through some boring, monotonous task for 5 days or so, you get to level cap, and that's when the game starts. I think if you feel like the whole game begins when you start that leveling process, I think it'll be a big success.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
Totally
And
agree.
that's why we've designed so many different paths for you to advance and make progress in. You know, because it's not just like, I've joined the game, I'm a, you know, whatever class, and I'm going down that road for my entire existence in the game, and that's that, I've reached the end, you know, whatever. We have a lot of different paths that people get to choose from and progress in, and it has
And participate
meaningful-
in.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Yeah. Will there be an intuitive grouping, or will we be fighting each other over the different mobs we kill in this game? If you know what I mean.
Intuitive
Yeah, I know what
grouping.
you mean. I want there to be intuitive grouping, but
What does that term refer to?
so that means like, hey, we're all working on the same kind of goal, right?
well, we have,
and
like,
we're
local
all in the
quests
same
and stuff.
area,
Yeah.
right? Do we form kind of like a weird ad hoc group,
So-
and are we all rewarded?
Some of the events that exist in the game are very intuitive grouping oriented,
Right.
right? Like we have area quests, we have local quests, we have events that occur, and we have mini societies that players will exist in, whether it's their citizenship of a node, the guild that they may be a part of, a region that they may have a home in, whatever it is, it's intuitive to you participating with other players in order to accomplish a goal or defeat a task,
Right.
And I think that that lends itself as a focus towards what our goals are with Ashes of Creation, which is, hey, we're getting back to that massively, back to that community, and we want people to work together to
Right.
accomplish these things. And on the other side of that coin, you're also going to see people working together as an antagonist potentially to certain events and certain things, whether it be sieging of the nodes or castles or whatever the deal may be. So I think, we have a lot of systems that are designed towards that intuitive grouping philosophy.
Yep.
Okay, how will the world map be structured in regards to level progression, since there's several races entering the world map from different directions?
So I think that what's often been done in the past is that you have a world map, and from the starting locations, it works in a circular fashion towards progression difficulty down to the center. We're moving away from that to a degree, in the sense that the world in general is an open realm of diverse types of difficulties that exist within all the different regions, and those events and those monster spawn tables are tied to the progression tables of the nodes as well. So as a node advances in stages, it will take those metrics of the spawn table for events and monsters and whatever else is in the area, and it will advance with the stage, where you'll still keep that diverse aspect of different content level within the region, but it's going to include new levels at a higher rank, and it's also going to expand on certain levels as it progresses until the point where at a Metropolis stage you're going to see heavier, high-level end activities and events spawning in around that location, but you'll still have the potential for lower-level characters to have content available in that region as well.
Right. The goal is to kind of have the server level up with the population, and make sure that there's balanced availability of content for those different populations.
Right.
And that's throughout the whole world, right? So that there's not like this, hey, you have to go to this zone when you're level 10, and this level zone when you're level 20, and this zone when you're level 30.
Right.
It's more about what you want to do in the game and which node you want to help,
Yes.
and sort of what you want to do. So you're kind of deciding where and when you adventure.
And remember, the whole backbone of the node system in general is that this is your way to unlock different doors to experience certain content that relates to both the location and progression of a node. So that means that content within an area is introduced as that node progresses and is diverse in the level of that content.
Right.
You know?
And I think early on it was like a point for us to just say, we don't want to be the typical hold your hand throughout every action type game. So that really lends itself to that idea.
By not holding your hand, you get that sense of discovery back.
Absolutely. I'm going to steal your water.
Do it,
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
but don't take my cookie.
Oh, okay. But you weren't going to eat it.
I'm going to eat it, just not now.
Cool. Will each zone or city have its own music? And if so, what style/theme will you go for?
Oh,
Say the first part about it?
will each zone
zone
have
will
its own music?
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, obviously, music is near and dear to my heart. I know
Yep.
near and dear to everybody's heart for the most part in this office. And it's a part of the immersion.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? I mean, you have the visuals, you have the music, you have just the rhyme and reason to mechanics that immerses you in that world. And we want to make sure that music reflects kind of the terrain that you're in as well.
Yeah,
If
that makes
you're in
sense.
a mountainous terrain, you're going to have maybe some percussion, rapid string movement, as opposed to if you're in a beautiful autumn scene, you may have some piano and
We haven't thought about this at all.
right? No, we've thought about it a lot.
I'm just saying.
Music is very important, and it's going to reflect both the mood of an area and the terrain and basically just what's happening there. In addition to the seasons that we've implemented as well for zones, music is going to be a dynamic aspect of the world's immersion.
Okay, nice. I think music's really important in MMOs. I think it's a good. Whenever I think about my first experiences with certain MMOs, it's always the music that really takes me back there.
Yeah, if you play me the EverQuest intro song, like it just takes me back. It's like immediate.
Yeah, and the old WoW vanilla songs as well. They're pretty good. Will there be any equalized PvP in this game?
Equally, you mean like
Like bringing a person
level up?
Yeah, say for example you zone into some kind of instance battleground, for example, and everyone's got equalized gear and stats.
There may be in the arena battlegrounds if there are class-specific competitions for different ranks within the.
Yeah, it'll really depend on the
but
context
not in
of
the
when it's
open
happening.
world.
Yeah,
It won't be in the open
Yeah.
world equalization.
Oh yeah, no, never.
Yeah, not in the open world.
yeah. But we'll definitely. So, again, this is not something that's set in stone or anything that we're really seriously talking about. Well, we are seriously talking about it, but we haven't committed to it yet. But we are talking about like different rule sets for different types of battlegrounds, and to sort of be able to do these tournament style and have different setups. So,
right.
so we may find that certain types of battlegrounds do that. And
Right, but not from an equalization standpoint, I don't think.
might
Okay.
be.
Really? You think so? I don't know.
Just so everybody can participate. But
No,
anyways,
no,
like
we're
you can
talking
see,
about
we're still
gear-
talking about it.
Gear and like skill levels. You know what I mean? I don't know. Not in the open world. There won't be in the open world. There may be in arenas and battleground specific things.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Because with equalized PvP, it is an MMORPG, and most people go for MOBAs for that kind of thing. It is more of an
Right,
RPG, so
exactly.
you do want your gear to matter. What are the punishments for dying in this game, and do those penalties differ for PvP and PvE?
Do they differ for PvE and PvP?
Yeah.
At the moment, they do not, and I don't think they will. But that's something we're still discussing. Penalties include things like experience debt penalties, you're going to, and that's not like to a de-leveling sense, but you're going to accrue negative experience that may have an impact on your performance in the game with certain skills and abilities. You know, we're still talking about what exactly those death penalties are going to include.
Okay, so maybe things like debuffs and stuff. Okay.
Could be things like debuffs that might have some time to allow you to re-enter, you know, combat or something, so you can't just, you know, spawn run.
Yeah.
And those could include like penalties on your overall health. It could include penalties on your skill damage and percentages, your casting time. I mean, there could be certain things that are associated with this. That we're still discussing.
Okay. Will Ashes of Creation have any legendary items that are so rare that only a few people on a server will be able to get them? It feels like in recent MMOs, you just have legendaries thrown at everyone to the point where the term legendary's lost all meaning. It's like, you get a legendary, you get a legendary, everybody gets a legendary.
That's what we should do.
Yeah.
Have Oprah.
Please no.
Have Oprah in the game.
Please no.
You get Honda.
We should make that a live event, like Christmas or something.
No, there are absolutely legendary items, and they're not items that are attained easily, nor are they granted out in a volume. There might even be items that are single items that will exist on the server at any given time. We want to get, I mean, the whole crux of Ashes of Creation is meaning, right? Meaning to your actions, meaning to what choices, where you go, who you participate in the things you do with, and what, you know, avenues and storylines you pursue, and what's at the end of that road. It needs to be meaningful. And legendary items, epic quests, things that take a lot of time should be reflected in their scarcity in the world. You know, you shouldn't just have a whole bunch of those Swords of Jeffrey.
Right, because then it reduces the meaning of them. Yeah. And it's when we talk about like secrets and we talk about, you know, there are going to be some really rare things in the game. And there are things that I could see maybe we run 5 years and people don't find them.
Oh, wow.
That's how rare we're talking about. So it's definitely, we've got a range, right? Like, just because we have one hidden thing doesn't mean everything's going to be hidden. But we're planning on, because that stuff's fun, man. I love it when somebody goes and finds something and is like, I had no idea this existed.
Yeah.
And this has been in the game for so long, I can't believe nobody discovered that yet. You know, and that's a really cool moment, not just for the person who finds it, but for everybody on the server. So
yeah, that's what people on the server remember. There'll be like YouTube videos made of it, and it'll be a real moment in the game's history when things like that are discovered.
Right.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Cool. I don't really understand this question too much. I got it from Twitch yesterday, but how high is optimization prioritized both server and client side?
How high?
Yeah. Do you
As high as
prioritize
we
it?
can turn that. It's like 11. Right? 11 is where we're at,
pretty
or where we want to be.
aspect, because we want performance on the client side and both on server to be a peak epitome of what's possible.
Yeah, to be as good as we can get it without reducing what we want to show.
Right, exactly.
So it's a high priority. We talk about it daily.
But
so.
there's great things. I mean, one of the great aspects of UE4 as an engine is that it has a lot of optimization.
A lot of stuff is baked in, so we really don't have to reinvent the wheel as far as that stuff goes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it speaks just to the graphics.
And it's always like sometimes I load it up our game, and it's like, wow, I can't believe. You
What
know,
was it the other day you were getting like 60
Yeah.
FPS and it wasn't optimized at all, and it was like one of the most dense centers of city with all these AIs
and it was just
running
surprising
around
to
and
see it
physics
because
going
I
on.
didn't expect that. So it's
and that was
you
on
know,
like a what, 970? I think
Something like that,
Single
yeah.
970, yeah.
Okay, nice. Will there be any mechanics tied to crafting, or will you just kind of gather the materials you need, click a button on a UI window, and then the item appears?
we're still working.
There will be excuse me, there will be a lot of mechanics involved in crafting. I mean, it's one of our pillars, the economy, and a huge portion of that pillar is crafting and that artisan tree. And we want to make sure that it's engaging, rewarding, and has a lot of time that can be spent in there. And you will see that time be spent wisely because of your impact on the world around you.
Again, just like the answer we gave on grinding is we want our systems to be fun. We don't want them to be boring, because like boring is the opposite of fun. And we play games to have fun, and we play games to, like, you know, enjoy our time. And if it's just if you ever have to ask yourself, why am I doing this, then you've done it wrong.
Right.
So.
And being good at something adds to the identity. It just doubles down on I am this, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, would you describe Ashes of Creation as being more of a group-based MMO or single-player MMO, or a bit of both?
I think that there's a lot of things that a person can do from a single player perspective. Obviously, I mean, you could play the game as a single player just because there are soft communities that you are a part of regardless of that fact. Like, you're going to be a part of that node community. You're going to be a part of the server's decisions to take out these local and area quests that are going to pop up and stuff. But at the same time, we've included a lot of mechanics towards community building, whether it be communities that's a guild, a player-run guild, or those social-run communities, or the node communities. There's a lot of different facets where a community comes into play for you, and even if you're a single player, you may get thrust into events that involve community.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because you can go back to being the single player if you want to, or you can stay within the community if you want to. You know, it's like there's a lot of versatility between the types of players that are going to be attracted to Ashes of Creation from both a community perspective and a solo perspective.
Yeah, we definitely want it possible for solo players to accomplish things, right?
Yeah.
We don't want that to be something that people are locked out of, but at the same time, like, the most fun you're going to have in an MMO is playing with other people. So that's where, you know.
I mean, there's a lot of great single player RPGs out there.
Right. There are.
If people want to play
plenty
single
of
player
them.
RPG, that's a whole different genre.
Right.
MMORPGs, I mean, the first word in the whole genre is massively. It refers to the amount of players you're involved with.
Right, and we want to provide an experience where, like, you get that, right? And it's that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, and whether it be a smaller group, you know, that's more focused, we've built for those in our guild systems, and you could have a large guild that has a lot of different facets to it.
Yeah, we focus on scalability of all the groups of all sizes, guilds of all sizes, and the solo player is something that we have focused on. And I mean, if that solo player doesn't want to participate in guilds, then I guess to the heart of the question, sure, groups do more, but like in reality, there's a lot of stuff for them to do.
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll just be more fun if you're grouping up, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Telling you.
That's true.
Will there be any kind of acknowledgement when you're the first player or guild to achieve something difficult or rare in the game, such as combat, crafting, just like a world first achievement or something, or server first?
I personally love that idea, and I think that that's something that's going to be prevalent in Ashes of Creation, and I think there's going to be a lot of potential firsts. I
Okay.
think
A lot of
with
potential
the
firsts.
diverse aspect of how the world just exists. There's a lot of things that somebody can be first at, and they're wide-ranging things.
And we want people to know, like, stuff's happening in the world.
Right.
So it's. I think it's important. We talked about leaderboards for all sorts of different things, and we're going to be tracking that stuff anyway. So there's no reason not to let people know, hey, this guy just did a cool thing over here. Why don't you go check it out?
And there'll be a lot of different, as I said, a lot of different things that there'll be leaderboards potentially for.
Yeah.
And they won't just necessarily have to pertain to a single server. They could be across all servers where you can see the leaderboards of those different servers.
And not even just for guilds or groups, but like kind of going back to your solo question. I mean, like discovery is a word that we've talked a lot about and mentioned a lot, that we want people to discover the world, things that, like Jeff had said, are secret or hidden, etc. We want that to be a part of it too. So.
Okay, so in Ashes of Creation, we already know there's going to be a weight limit, so you need to transfer goods with the caravan system. Is there going to be any way to increase your character's base weight limit through in-game means? Or will it just be the same kind of static weight limit all the way throughout?
Well, I don't think it's going to be the same from when your character's created and all the way throughout. I think that there's going to be different attainable items within the game that are going to eventually increase the amount of limits that you can take, but ultimately you're still going to have a limit that's going to require you to participate in the caravan system when you want to transit meaningful goods from region to region.
Yeah.
It's a scalability thing, right? Caravans transit goods on a scale that is much, much greater than an individual character. So we're talking about, an order of magnitude, probably. So
and it's not that the caravan system is solely related to the transit of personal goods. There are many different applications for the caravan system. There are a lot of quest applications for it. There's a lot of node development application. If you want to, as a community, as a node, collect goods in order to assist in a trade route that's been established with another node in order to help construct a building potentially in that node that might be specific to its development, that's a way that a caravan is going to be used. If players want to, as a guild, build up nodes around the castle to increase its defenses, that's one of the mechanics of our castle sieging system, caravans are going to be used to transit those goods as well. It's not just a transit system that pertains solely to the transit of personal goods, but it's also just a dynamic system that relates to the development of the world in general.
Yeah, so I guess to go in a little bit more detail there, just as far as the way we picture it as, if I'm a character, I can basically carry enough goods to support myself, right? If I want to start branching out into the larger economy, that's sort of when the caravan starts coming into place. It's that scale. Once you start going to the mass market, that's when the caravan system really starts to come into play for an individual player.
Right, when you want to go to the macro level, you're going to have to take on more risk, and that's kind of how we've approached it. That if you're a solo player, you're comparably safe, right? But if you have a caravan, there's a little more risk there involved in certain systems, but you're carrying a lot more.
And the caravan system is one of our most in-depth systems, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for us to explain all the parameters in one sitting or a few sittings of a Q&A, which is why over the next several months we'll be releasing additional developer blogs that pertain to exactly what these systems are going to include and why they're necessary and how they assist both in the growth of the world and as your personal advancement. And it's a really cool system that plays on our regional economy and how risk versus reward gives you that satisfaction if you can successfully accomplish this transit. I think it's a really interesting dynamic, and it plays to interaction with players, both adversaries and friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a quick question: will there be AOE looting in this game?
AOE looting.
Yeah.
AOE
So
looting?
say you kill a bunch of mobs in an area. Will you have to loot them all individually, or will you loot one and it just loots all of the mobs in the area?
I don't think we've included AOE looting in our looting mechanics, but
yeah, it's going to be something that we're going to have to address when we get closer to that and start feeling out like what players are doing and how the whole system feels in general. So yeah, it's not something that was off the table, but it's not on the table. It's kind of
Okay.
It's on the shelf.
Yeah, it's on the shelf. It's on the shelf.
Will you allow add-ons for Ashes of Creation?
Generally, the answer to that is probably going to be no.
Probably going to be no. But again, this is a specific question that relates to something that might still be potentially on the shelf.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah. There's just a whole lot of
I mean, hopefully, if
they're not Oreos.
if you design the user interface and everything, well, there shouldn't really be a need for add-ons, will there?
Absolutely,
right.
That's a very good point. And my personal hesitation with add-ons is that there's a point at which potentially add-ons become a necessary tool for players to have.
Right. And they stratify the population in a bad way.
Yeah.
Parsers can do some really nasty things to communities, and when you're talking about a 1% difference determines whether or not somebody can join a party.
Yes.
Like it sucks.
Yeah.
And I understand the reason it's there, and I love my parsers. I don't think
there's like a toxicity involved at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the statement of if we design the UI well, which we are going to do, there's not really a need for the add-ons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I suppose this can tie into the next ability. Next question: what are your design philosophies behind designing the user interface in this game, and will the UI be fully customizable so you can move things, resize things?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we absolutely want to add a lot of customization for players to be able to, direction the UI in a shape and form that's pleasing both to their eye and to their functionality. And there's going to be a lot of, I think, customizable options and appearance on how that UI is.
Yeah, actually, we've got that system in place right now. You're not going to see it on any of our videos at the moment because we're still working on the overlay for it. But yeah, it's built with customization in mind, and it's built so that you can change the UI every once in a while if you're getting bored of one.
Okay.
Make it interesting.
Great. 1 second. I've lost where I am. oh, here's one. Is there any way to change your character's appearance in case you messed up in the initial character customization?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're going to have kind of salon shop items that allow you to go back to the character customization screen and kind of change your hair color or fade, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Maybe a barbershop is something you
Yeah.
set up on your freehold.
Exactly. Oh, barbershop.
Oh, nice. So this won't be something that's tied to the cash shop or anything.
That's a good question. There may be a cash shop item that allows you to change your cosmetics, but there also might be some in-game method to do that as well at some point.
Okay.
We don't know the answer to that yet, totally.
I think I asked a few times before when it comes to the cash shop in this game. As far as I'm aware, didn't you say everything that's available on the cash shop will be obtainable through in-game means as well?
There may not, not everything.
Not everything,
No.
okay.
But what I think to clarify that question is a lot of people are concerned when they hear cosmetic cash shop that, like, as other games have done in the past, it's like no customization or no custom appearance or no cosmetics that are available through in-game means. And it's like, if I'm going to look like a potato sack unless I go to the cosmetic shop. That's not going to be the case in Ashes.
No
There's
potato
gonna be, well, there could be potato sacks.
Could be
Anyways, no, but
Potato sacks confirmed. All right.
no. So there's going to be a lot of availability when it comes to cosmetics in the game. There's going to be, dyes that are available outside the cash shop. There's going to be costumes that are available outside the cash shop. There's going to be a lot of things that players can achieve. A very diverse source of cosmetics.
That's kind of how we view them, like achievements.
Absolutely, totally achievements. And then there's also going to be additional cash shop. There'll be additional cash shop cosmetics that can be purchased as well. I mean, it's very important for us to stay away from. I mean, we will never go down that pay-to-win path, and we will never go down that cash grab scenario where monetization gimmicks are required in order to get ahead of other players. And the alternative to that is we're a subscription-based game with no box cost. Right, and we're also including a cash shop that's going to be purely cosmetic, and those cosmetics may have like seasonal items that are going to be limited in nature or limited in time, and it helps us to continue to create content that's going to then be introduced into the game on regularly scheduled updates and stuff.
Yeah, subscription is very good, but marketplace is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this may have to be the last question, right?
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah,
Peon, we got one
I can't
more
believe it's that
question.
late already.
Okay, I think I've asked all of the main questions that I have, so this is just going to be one more. I'll make it kind of flow into a bit of a long question because it's the same topic. Will you be able to change the control scheme in this game? Will there be support for controllers? And if Ashes of Creation is successful, will you eventually put the game on consoles?
That's a long question.
That's a huge question.
So, you'll
Save the
definitely be
longest
able
one for
to
last.
change your control scheme, right?
Absolutely.
Whether we can make the game usable on a controller is unknown at this point.
I think it's a good possibility for the controller support.
It's definitely a possibility, but it's we've got to make some hard decisions if we want to go down that route.
Right.
And then will we go to consoles?
That's also something we can't necessarily.
Yeah, I mean
Really
it's
hard question. Yeah.
It's
Like I said, we don't screen these questions, everybody.
yeah.
Yeah. Chat says no.
Everybody would like to. Everybody would like to. It would be awesome if we could, but it also brings a lot of attention away from us building the core of our game.
Here's the answer that I think is most pertinent to that question. No matter what, our primary objective and solitary goal here is we're taking this to PC. We're going to achieve all of these design elements within the timeline that we've laid out, and that is our goal no matter what.
Yeah.
If it is possible to include some type of console aspect or controller support, that's something for another day that we would address based on how things are developing with the production of our primary goal, which is
If
PC.
we're way ahead on our milestones and we're like, hey, we've got some extra time here, let's throw somebody on.
And whether or not, Ashes of Creation, it becomes a broader franchise that could see itself manifest into, potentially a single-player RPG on a console thing. That's a totally different story.
Right.
Ashes of Creation as an MMORPG is focused solely on coming out to market with all of these components and doing so in a timely fashion that we've laid forward. That is our goal here at the studios.
Okay, I think that's all of the questions I've I've got. Really appreciate you inviting me on here and answering all of these. I know I threw a few difficult ones
We
your way.
appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, thank you for your
you for
coverage
your
of the
questions.
game. Thank you for your support. We honestly think you do a great job when it comes to content creation, and we like to see you continue to do that. And you're welcome to come back here and do another live Q&A whenever you want. I think these questions
Anytime,
were
yeah.
great.
Great questions.
Thanks. Definitely going to be streaming and probably making a lot of content for the game when it comes out anyway, as long as it lives up to what I'm kind of hoping it is.
Don't
that a
you
threat?
worry.
Yeah. I believe.
I believe too.
Thank you,
All right,
Lazy
thanks,
Peon. We
guys.
appreciate
Take it
it.
easy. Cheers.
Have a great
Take
day.
care, man.
Well, I think we may have cut into our other Q&A just a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that. This time goes by
I
so
think we'll
fast.
save those questions. Yeah, because that's an hour. We'll save those questions for our next session on Wednesday. And actually, we have on Wednesday we have a familiar face for everybody in the community. He's one of our Discord community moderators. He's also a YouTuber himself. Death's Proxy.
That's proxy.
Is going to be our Q&A champion on Wednesday. And then on Friday, another familiar face for the community, the creator of the Dungeon Crawler Network, Agilos, is going to be our interviewer. So make sure to hit both of them up on Discord with questions that you want them to ask us. And guys, again, we from the studios cannot express our absolute appreciation and gratitude for the amazing support that you've given us. I think we're going to hit that $2 million mark.
I can't even believe it.
Probably tomorrow morning, afternoonish.
Yeah.
Continue to get the word out. Tell all your friends, and let's bring Ashes of Creation to life together. So thank you guys. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you enjoyed this Q&A. Have a great day. We'll see you on Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Thanks, everybody. See
Wednesday,
ya.
guys.